Hello and welcome, I'm Tafara Gadamu. The killing last month of 8 elephants in the Mago Park has triggered quite a serious debate on wildlife conservation in Ethiopia. What really happened and why? Is poaching that serious in this country? My guest today, Dr. Habte Jebessa, is Associate Professor of Biodiversity Conservation at the Addis Ababa University. Welcome to the program, Dr. Habte.
Thank you very much for having me.
The reason for our conversation is what happened, when was it, last month, on May 26th, in the Mago Park. 8 elephants were killed, ostensibly by poachers. And you wrote a letter to the Prime Minister seeking his intervention. As a wildlife biologist, a conservationist at the Addis Ababa University, we were pretty much seized by the matter. What exactly happened?
There's wildlife poaching in this country is not known in recent times. We have heard a few years ago that elephant poaching existed in Babile Elephant Sanctuary, and we did not exactly know how many elephants were killed, but we heard that a lot of them were killed by one presenter on the Biological Society of Ethiopia, presented in 1 year as far as 70 elephants were poached.
Killed.
And then the killer was, in fact, apprehended. But in this case, in the Mago National Park, this was the first time we heard such a huge number of elephants being poached. And it is not only that the elephants were killed, but each of their tusks were removed.
So we're talking about close to 50 kilos of tusks.
Yeah, an elephant tusk is from 23 kilograms on average to 50 kilograms. It ranges between these. And in the Mago National Park, the elephants which were killed were very huge when we see them on the dead corpses on the pictures. But the situation is alarming.
So this is interesting. Yeah. So you decided, you and your colleagues and in the sector have decided that these are poachers. This is not accidental.
Never. It is a plant, it's a plant orchestrated poaching. In fact, when they remove the tusk of one elephant, removing it can take, as much as an hour if they are very quick to remove one tusk. And they removed 16 of them, each of them having 2 tusks. And then they transported all this in this forest. That means they transported, and imagine.
Do we know where?
Nobody knows where how they removed them, where they took them. And what we see is only local rangers took picture with the dead corpses. And as they reached at the place, I think several days after they were killed, because you see that bird species were on the picture of the elephants. And what is alarming is that once poaching has started, there is a network of poachers. That means the killers, the brokers, and then the real dealers, the real dealers of the tusk. Where do they take? Through which channel does it go? Does it go through South Sudan? Does it go through Kenya? Does it go through Ethiopia?
We have not established that as yet.
Yes, yeah. It's not established. Where are they taking these tusks? This is one of the most serious questions. Who is involved?
Yeah, we'll get back to that.
Yeah.
Who is involved is a very interesting question.
Yeah.
But let's establish first where this happened. Where did this happen?
This happened in Mago National Park.
Where specifically?
In Mago National Park, I think it is. They are near the Mago River, where they were. I think I have specifically cited in the letter. In the letter, which I got information from some wildlife enthusiasts who are working either in Yuka or either in the headquarters. I do not want to tell their name because in every part of the country.
You said in that letter that they were killed in between Karo Dus and Karo Kerecho, Kabele's southern tip of the Mago National Park, closer to the confluence of the Mago and Omo rivers.
Exactly.
That's where Mago River drains into the Omo River.
To the lower part.
The lower part.
Yeah, and this is the most affected area. The most affected area. You cannot talk about Mago alone. It is Omo, Mago, Tama biodiversity complex. And elephants can travel several kilometers in search of water. It is not only for drinking that elephants go to water holes. They also cool their bodies. They cool their bodies. They wallow in it and they enjoy it. And it is a ritual for them to visit water holes. And they know, these poachers know exactly where they go. And always in wildlife poaching and killing, the water holes are the killing areas. The water holes are the killing areas.
Because that's where you wait for them.
Where it is inevitable that they go at some point of the week, they will go. So the poachers wait at a strategic place where they can shoot them without being affected, and they can get them, on spot. And this is an orchestrated one. First of all, there are people who know where they go to water, the local people involved. And surprisingly, who is the shooter, this sharpshooter? And during that time, when you kill about 7, they say 7, one escaped, I think, it is the total herd, eliminated. The total herd was eliminated. So what is in this area? I'm not a policeman. But as a layman and as a biologist, I can figure out how these people waited for them, because they know the water hole where they always use. And the most intriguing one is where it is being sold.
Yeah.
CITES now has banned already. Yeah. Everywhere,
It can't. This is illegal.
This is completely illegal. But information came later that authorities involved.
So coming back to that question of who are involved in this killings, in this poaching exercise, we know that there is at least one person who has survived, I think was injured. He was shot, right?
Yeah.
So he survived.
Yeah, he was, he's
one of the poachers, right?
He's one of the poachers.
These are not ordinary people, ordinary locals, no. So do we know what this person has told the police?
Surprisingly, the days of these elephants was downplayed. There is no international media, no such alarm was given.
Why you allege that the local authorities are involved in
they didn't want to give information.
That's quite a serious allegation. Have you established that they are actually involved in the poaching process?
Yeah, there is. We heard that they are in hospitals, and I do not know whether this is true or not. But they said former officials.
Who say that?
The southern nations and nationalities. I think wildlife office or somebody to the reporter. Yeah, there is one newspaper. Yeah, so in that they said there are two of them were hit by the fighting elephants, the self-defending, you can say. So they were hit and they are in hospital. And these people were not exposed. They were not told to the media. They were not told to the television. No official communication. Why is this? It's very surprising. It was taken as something very simple. When you eliminate one herd, total herd of 7 of them, one elephant, it waits, it stays for 2 years to give birth to the calf. So And how many years did it take to raise 7 or 8 of them? That's a long, long, long year. And in this area, the Mago Omo Tama Biodiversity Complex, among others, it hosts, it accommodates giraffe, the black rhino, elephants, buffaloes, the kudus. And you can't imagine. It is no less than Serengeti. It is no less than Kalahari in its biodiversity.
We don't have the black rhino in that location
Black
anymore.
rhino has never been seen for several years now.
So you think that is extinct?
It is extinct. It is extinct. Anyone who hunts for elephants will die for the black rhino because the horn is very expensive.
That's quite a trophy.
It is quite a trophy and it is very expensive. So, Kenya, how Kenya guards or keeps its wildlife. The national parks, not the Kenyan Wildlife Authority, but the national parks themselves have helicopters. They have helicopters. They have highly trained airborne rangers who can reach them in minutes. And in the case of Mago National Park, the area, as I heard, was like a war zone on that day. It was a war zone. And the huge rifles were used. And anyone can hear from any distance that it was, the killing happened from morning to evening.
So you mean the rangers were overpowered by these poachers?
The rangers, the Ethiopian rangers can never match the poachers, this kind of poachers. They have Kalashnikov. Kalashnikov killing zone is 400 meters, as I learned it in my military school during the Derg regime. It is 400 meters. It can wound even a very small one. But these ones have got, 50 caliber or M14 that can kill up to 800 meters. So having a Kalashnikov and, ill-trained rangers with no road there. There is no road. They don't know. I don't know whether they have even four-wheel trucks. I don't know. And this is quite embarrassing when they chase away the rangers and do whatever they like in that region, and there is no military. I think.
So there's big money involved in here, and the poachers are not alone. They, as you said earlier on, you have that chain. There's the poachers on the ground. There's the dealers who have that transfer to where God knows where. Could be, as you said, South Sudan. It could be probably Kenya or some other country. So it's a very, very well organized chain of criminals.
It's in fact a huge business. It's a huge business now. However, Kenya doesn't allow wildlife trafficking. No country, even Sudan no country allows this.
But definitely there is no local market for that, is there?
There is no local market. They have to travel somewhere out of the region.
Do you know where? You've mentioned a few.
Most of them, it says Southeast Asia, or they say they are transported to China. Also, I am not sure whether any country, including China, accepted this huge number of tasks.
Yeah, it's banned.
They signed the CITES, treaty. There is a treaty that countries have signed. Wildlife trafficking is illegal throughout the nation. But what the most important thing, the southern nations and nationalities should have applied to the central government so that helicopters can be sent. It takes about 2 hours for a helicopter from Addis to travel there. And in 2 hours, these people cannot escape carrying all these tasks from that forest. They can be caught. why didn't the southern nations and nationalities apply to the Ethiopian military, to the armed forces? I think the armed forces is in that region, I am sure. So if they are not called in by the regional governments, they cannot interfere. And why didn't they inform the government? Why didn't they ask help?
Good question, but the coordination has never been there. I mean,
there is no coordination.
So certainly they must have missed that critical point. But this is a very interesting ecosystem, right, that you have in the south. You know, you argue that several other parks are in grave danger.
Several parks are in grave danger in Ethiopia. I think Ethiopia doesn't seem to understand that tourism is the main source of foreign income, foreign currency source. For example, the Awash National Park is completely endangered, and it is, you can say...
I can safely say it's almost gone.
It's almost gone. The Awash National Park is gone, and no regional government, no central government seems to be concerned because a lot of papers have been published, a lot of presentations have been made on this issue, but nobody seems to respond. It seems that the system is extremely resistant to what the media, what the universities researchers are talking about. You know, the Alatish National Park is almost gone. Herders as far as from Nigeria, the Fulani are. It seems that we heard that they took it over.
Wow, really?
Yes, and the Gambela also herders from some other countries. They sometimes occupy, and they even chase away the rangers. The rangers do not have such a power,
But there is the annual
migration
both sides of the border.
Exactly.
But I mean, can you say that they actually are killing wildlife there, because that's what happens.
They are not under any law. Let alone animals. They can kill people. They don't care. By the way, those people who governs them. By the way, under whose government are they? These people who enter with thousands of livestock into Alatish National Park, Gambela National Park, coming from other countries. Under which rule are they? Whether they kill or not, who knows?
But you have the periodic migration.
There is
of wildlife, right?
Yes, in southern Sudan, the white-eared cobs migrate from Gambela to the southern Sudan,
and back to
these multinational companies have already overtook the waste. And the big farms are now there. And what is more important about these big farms in Ethiopia, while I support Ethiopia's development enthusiastically, there is no environmental impact assessment. It is the environmental impact assessments in this country are nominal. They are being done by the companies themselves, by foreign companies, subcontracted by Ethiopian consultants. And Ethiopian consultants are simply there in environmental impact assessment as data collectors, baseline data collectors. These environmental impact reports are written by foreign nationals who have never seen the area probably or have seen it one time.
So you're talking about the Southern Omo projects and also the Gambela ones, right? Are you talking
exactly. For example, the Kuras sugar plantation project is ill-designed. It is ill-designed, extremely ambitious, and has taken more than 60% of the Omo Mago National Park.
In what way?
Sugar plantation. The sugar plantation is about 60% of. It took about 60% of the land now. And what it did is, there are canals, These canals, 133 kilometers long, 48 meters wide, about 5 meters deep. They cannot pass the wildlife.
So it could have been.
They're wildlife traps.
So okay, so you're arguing that this could have been done better.
It could have been done better in any country. I am very, very sure. In national park, it cannot be surface. It should be underground. The canals can be done underground. Why it is, in Ethiopia, environmental impact assessment is not a problem. Where there are lakes of cyanide from gold mines, such as, we see a lake of cyanide killing people, wildlife, which should have been done underground.
So it could have easily been fixed. Is that what you say?
Of course, it should be underground. Now you see, the soil which has been dug out of this canal, 16 million cubic meter. 16 million cubic meter is now, collected over there. And it is not being managed well. 16 cubic meter soil, which has been dug from the canal. And the canal is it starts from the northern Mago, it wanders into the Mago region, and then goes to the southern tip of Omo. And the surprising thing is the canal is on the eastern and the western side of the Omo River, completely fencing the Omo River from wildlife, such as elephants. And it is, I think...
When was the last time you've been there?
I've never been there. But I am always following using Google Earth. And there is also international organizations such as the Auckland Institute, who is always working.
But it's always...
And my PhD...
The Auckland Institute is a bit too extreme.
A little bit extreme. But there is my PhD student is working there. Now working on some antelopes. And I get everyday report from this student. And I wish I go there, but I have not been involved, I have I never.
So what you're basically saying is there is a lack of synergy. You have the government with its arm to implement things. You have the local communities. You have civil society organizations, perhaps. So all stakeholders are not involved in the planning process. Is that what you're arguing? The lack of synergy, perhaps, whatever you want to do.
Yeah, particularly concerning the Omo and Mago, these Kuraz sugar plantations, I see the report from IUCA, experts that only the government institutions involved. I have never seen an independent consultant in the environmental impact assessments there. It says while already the project has been already started, the report says the environmental impact assessment is going on. The cart in front of the horse. You see?
So interesting. So you argue in one of the papers that I read that you wrote that the Ethiopian wildlife policy, is that correct? The Ethiopian wildlife policy has to be revisited. It has to be brought up to date. What are you talking about?
Yeah, the Ethiopian Wildlife Conservation Authority policy is a disaster. It is a disaster. It has never been there, in fact. It is rudimentary.
But it has played a part in conserving.
Yeah, if IUCA was not there, the Wildlife Ethiopia are not there now.
Yeah.
It is trying its level best.
As an institution.
But it has been completely undercapacitated by policy, by this policy. The Ethiopian Wildlife Conservation, the oldest organization to conserve the Ethiopian wildlife, was established by His Imperial Majesty. And then the Imperial Majesty was much stronger than any government who came to power concerning wildlife conservation, surprisingly. The IUCA was under the Ministry of Agriculture during His Imperial Majesty, and it was governed by Board of Ministers. Now, IUCA is governed by one person, the director, and it is under the commission.
What is wrong with that? Because someone has to be able to lead the organization while soliciting support in terms of expertise from as many sources as possible. What's wrong with that?
The problem is EUCA has never been stable. It is being tossed from, first of all, from the Ministry of Agriculture to the Ministry of Tourism, and then to the Environment.
And now back to the Ministry of Forestry, to the, Agriculture and Forestry. Back to
No, it is demoted from the ministerial level under the Commission level, from under the Ministry of Forest, Environment, Climate Change now. And surprisingly, also, it resides even in rented house, few classes. You know, EUCA in Kenya is a very huge organization.
Well, definitely
15% of the GDP.
Well, compared to the wildlife in Kenya, Ethiopian wildlife is literally zero.
It is not zero yet. It is not zero yet, but it is going to be.
I mean, you know, if you have that big resource in terms of wildlife, as in Kenya, and perhaps also in Tanzania and some other African countries further south, you need that kind of institution. It's understandable that they have such a big, robust institution.
No, not.
Unlike in Ethiopia, where, I mean, wildlife is not.
I disagree on this. You know, nobody knows the biodiversity of the Omo-Mago-Tama biodiversity complex, which is not less than that of Kenya.
Really?
Yes. Ethiopia didn't invest, for example, it is not paved road yet to Mago, to Omo. There are no roads, there are no lodges, there are no tourist facilities. You know, Ethiopia is investing now, according to in this sugar plantation, as I read and calculated, it is more than $1.6 billion is going to invest. If Ethiopia invests $1.6 billion in tourist infrastructures, I am very sure this sugar plantation is not near to that in generating income. The main, as I read from these reports, the main objective of establishing the Kuraz sugar project is to close the gap between the demand and the supply of the Ethiopian sugar locally to the community consumption and to generate foreign income.
Quick returns.
Yes, yeah, quick return. You know, we are going to destroy mega biodiversity, completely displace 16 nations, 16 of them, 16 different tribes with different language, with different cultures. We destroy them. We make them overnight factory workers, their culture, language, tradition, everything being destroyed, and the result will be equal to sugar.
It's interesting, but traditions are going to disappear, right? Sooner or later.
Not really in this area.
Yeah.
These are indigenous communities. Indigenous communities, which particularly in the southern Obo, the world wants to see them before they disappear. And Ethiopia, relatively, from Eastern Africa, is the most loved country in terms of attracting tourism. If there is peace and security, wildlife, if there is touristic attractions, if there are lodges, if there are facilities, this country will be, you know, a kind of a tourist boom. But nothing has been done on tourism. You know, there are no lodges, there are no transportation facilities, there are no, you know, hotels on this way. Why not we invest this much money on tourism while we can even generate more money than this sugar? You know, sugar. For sugar, you should not really destroy all this biodiversity, which is irreversible.
Interesting discussion for another day. Obviously, it's really a very important and engaging topic in the years to come. I hope to do that again with you on that particular subject. But thank you very much indeed for joining me to talk about this poaching that has just happened in southern Ethiopia and its impact on the wider wildlife conservation issues projects in this country. Thank you very much indeed, Dr. Habte.
Thank you very much. So I appreciate for you involving in this hitherto neglected kind of a project, biodiversity conservation.